Sutra Resource Law Money. Most often, people are paid to give up their own goals. We strive to gain additional resources, experience, connections, and knowledge while working for others. If we don't manage our own goals, someone else will manage them. Not no one, but specifically someone. Often, we get paid for pursuing the goals of the person who compensates us for abandoning our own. Think of the phrase working for the man. People use it to describe work that consumes time and energy but brings neither career advancement, recognition, nor substantial pay, while all the benefits go to someone else, this proverbial man. Today, this is usually our employer, the business owner, or just our immediate supervisor at work, at a factory, administrative office, store, or research institution. For instance, a junior researcher may spend years working day and night on experiments in the lab, yet all the glory titles, fame as a distinguished scientist, and awards go to the project leader. Moreover, when we work for hire, the principle described in Marx's Capital often applies. The owner, the business owner, appropriates a portion of our labor, essentially paying for only a part of our working time out of the profits earned. Karl Marx even believed that capitalism would lead to the absolute impoverishment of the proletariat because, in a situation where jobs are scarce and means of production are concentrated in the hands of a few, capitalists would dictate absolute terms in the labor market, and wages would barely cover the cost of mere physical subsistence, minimal food, shelter, and clothing. Fortunately, economic reality and socio-economic trends turned out to be much more complex and less grim than they seemed in the first half of the 19th century. Nevertheless, we should remember John D. Rockefeller's famous saying about such situations: if you work all day, you have no time to make money. This is a common misconception that big money is earned only through hard work. If this notion is firmly planted in our heads, we will spend our entire lives doing tough, menial work and getting paid a pittance for it. To start earning more, you first need to embrace this thought and engage your mind in earning money. Money is a necessary resource for achieving goals, but it can also lead us astray. If we don't know where we are going or what we are striving for, we will simply waste our time and energy serving the goals of others in exchange for, usually, small amounts of money. This is what generally happens in the labor market. At some point, we may realize that what we dreamed of, what we are predisposed to, is still just as far away from us, and we have not come any closer to it. What can be done about this? Listen to yourself, to your unconscious, and to the signals that reality sends us. This will help us align our goals with the challenging conditions in which we are forced to achieve them. Deviating from our own goals creates a significant internal conflict, a conflict between our actions and our unconscious. If we spend too long going in a direction our unconscious doesn't want, it will try to stop us. At first, it might send signals to our bodies in the form of relatively mild ailments, a sore throat, a cold. If that doesn't help, the unconscious will influence us physically. We might stumble often, break our arms or legs, or miss the train or plane. In this way, the unconscious will try to keep us from moving where our resources, goals, and happiness are not. But if we don't listen and continue moving in the wrong direction, the unconscious may deem life meaningless and simply shut us down. Therefore, it's worth pausing and reconsidering where we want to go, where we are heading now, what currents we have fallen into, and where they might lead us. Often these currents are controlled by specific people and correspond to their goals. And we can take advantage of them. For example, we need to get to New Zealand. Keeping the final goal in mind, we hire ourselves as rowers on a boat that someone else is steering to the island of Java, which is on our way. On the one hand, we get closer to New Zealand, on the other, we learn something along the way, we grow stronger physically, acquire new skills, and find like-minded people. Reaching Java, we look for another person, another current, heading, for instance, to Australia. Yes, it's still not our goal, but it helps us move toward it since Australia is on the way to New Zealand. And then, in Australia, we again find allies who help us move further. With money, you can do everything except make a human being. Augusta Detto Irf. Money is for people, not people for money. This model allows us to combine the necessity of earning a living with the possibility of accumulating useful resources, experience, qualifications, valuable connections, new knowledge, and physical fitness, and brings us closer to our goals. Learning how to align our goals with those of others enables us to use them to advance toward our dreams. Truly happy is the one whose beloved activity provides their means of living, notes Professor Higgins in Bernard Shaw's Pygmalion. In fact, not many people in the world consider their work not a job at all, but a beloved activity or hobby. More often, daily bread is earned through hard, unpleasant labor, and in this daily grind, an entire human life passes. But it is up to us whether we can acquire invaluable experience in our grunt work, which will later allow us to realize our potential. I would rather earn 1% of the efforts of 100 people than 100% of my own effort. John D. Rockefeller. At the beginning of his career, the famous Florentine Niccolò Machiavelli had to dedicate himself entirely to poorly paid and largely ungrateful work. His service in the Second Chancery, the College of Ten, and the magistrate of the Signoria in the Florentine Republic took up much of his time and energy. However, it also opened up new opportunities for a gifted, inquisitive mind. Over time, Machiavelli became one of the trusted advisors to the head of the Republic, the Grand Gonfalonier of Florence, Piero Soderini. He was entrusted with carrying out the most important and delicate diplomatic missions. He traveled to the courts of the French King Louis XII, the Duke of Romagna Cesare Borgia, the Emperor of the Holy Roman Empire Maximilian I, and the Holy See. The knowledge he gained during this activity, supplemented by his study of the history of medieval Florence and especially ancient history, became the starting point for writing the works that would bring him fame as an outstanding thinker, philosopher, and writer of the Renaissance. Machiavelli was able to convert his boring, routine bureaucratic duties into a reliable resource of experience, connections, knowledge, and, of course, money. Money plays a universal role in our lives. It acts as a mediator in all spheres of human activity. Even in areas where money cannot be directly used, people try to assign value to what has none. Eternal questions remain: how much is love or life worth? Income and spending. Money doesn't just lie on the ground. It's no surprise that almost everyone, or nearly everyone, tries to earn money. The main way to get it is by exchanging your time for it. Time is the only resource everyone has. We exchange time for money, but can we call this an equal exchange? Let's recall the law of conservation of energy. It states that energy cannot be created or destroyed, only transformed from one form to another. However, few know that there are certain limitations imposed by this law. For mechanical energy, the law does not hold if frictional forces exist. This means that kinetic and potential energy can be converted into heat due to friction, but the reverse conversion is impossible. Similarly, time and effort can be converted into money, but money does not always buy a person what they want. Time is a universal resource, and it must be spent wisely. Spending all our time working for others can cause us to forget our own goals. And at some point, a person may realize they are too late to achieve their own goals. Even the money they've accumulated by then won't fix the situation. There is no reverse exchange. Thoughtlessly converting your time and effort into just money will not bring good results. Since money is a very limited resource, and its potential is often overestimated. Time can be turned into money, but money cannot be turned into time. In ancient Jewish teachings, space and time are considered the prerogative of God alone. Therefore, Kabbalistic ethics regard time as a precious resource, equating its waste to theft. Jewish lore demonstrates this attitude, such as in the story of Rabbi Ishmael and Rabbi Shimon, who were being led to execution during the persecution of Jews under Emperor Hadrian. Rabbi Shimon said to Rabbi Ishmael, "Teacher, my heart bleeds because I do not know what I am being executed for." Rabbi Ishmael replied, "Has there never been a time in your life when someone came to you for advice, and you made them wait while you finished your meal, cleaned your shoes, or changed clothes?" The Torah says, "And if you have to steal." This applies to both minor incidents and serious situations. Rabbi Shimon sighed, "You have comforted me, my teacher." In this dramatic situation, the rabbis virtually equated disrespect for another person's time with physical violence threatening life. The loss of such a precious resource as time is more tragic than the loss of property or money. Many people don't think about money until it runs out. Others behave the same way with time. Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. In Kabbalah, the teachings about money are quite thoroughly developed. For Kabbalists, money has no moral value. It is neither good nor bad. Like everything else in the world, it is created by God. The Torah says, "Lahavi titparnasuzi mizi," go and earn from each other. The key is learning to use money correctly and aligning it with one's life goals. A reasonable attitude toward money is also developed in Islam, where money, along with beautiful women and power, is considered one of the main temptations of our world. Thus, money should not become an end in itself for a Muslim, turning into an idol. Allah has no partners. When money becomes a person's idol, the thirst for profit leads him to forbidden acts, haram, such as gambling, theft, stock trading, usury, and so on. Islam forbids believers from such earnings, and punishment will follow. You will be tested with your possessions and yourselves, and you will hear much abuse from those given the scripture before you and from those who associate others with Allah. Quran 3:186. Nevertheless, money, and wealth, is not condemned in Islam, but believers are commanded to spend it for the pleasure of Allah. If someone is stingy on Allah's path, they will be held accountable in the afterlife. The purpose of money is not to accumulate as much as possible but to invest it properly in the afterlife. Money lies not in the money, but in the deeds. Employers don't pay wages, they merely handle the money. Wages are paid by the customer. Henry Ford. In Buddhism, there is even a special deity that helps people with their economic affairs, Shambhala. According to Buddhist teachings, Shambhala was not always a god but was elevated to godhood by Brahma for living a righteous life. Shambhala is called the god of wealth. Money and divine power can indeed go hand in hand. Finding the right path in relation to money is not easy. It is best not to betray oneself or what makes up one's personality and soul, one's dreams, goals, and aspirations. As it says, "What does it profit a man if he gains the whole world but loses his soul? Or what can a man give in exchange for his soul?" Matthew 16:26. In the Gospel of Luke, there is a parable that Christ told his disciples. The Lord says, "And I tell you, use worldly wealth to gain friends for yourselves, so that when it is gone, you will be welcomed into eternal dwellings. Luke 16:19. God sends us a signal. Since you have renounced your goals by acquiring this wealth, whatever it may be, try to use these new resources for your main goal, or goals. The famous Russian and Soviet surgeon, and paradoxically, also an archbishop of the Russian Orthodox Church, Luke Voyno-Yazanetsky, wrote, "The Lord tells us, if you have unrighteous wealth, act as the unfaithful steward did. Use it to make friends who will justify you in eternal life, if you use the wealth to help them, to alleviate suffering and poverty." What is the foundation of the institution of money from the perspective of natural sciences? If we consider the biological basis of monetary circulation, the situation is quite simple. All interactions between living organisms are ultimately based on mutual benefit. Sometimes acts of altruistic, selfless behavior can be seen as a form of egoism determined by corresponding genes, since copies of these genes are likely present in those individuals toward whom the altruism is directed. Under natural conditions, some individuals may help each other when needed, understanding that they, in turn, will receive help. For example, one chimpanzee grooms another, removing parasites from areas it cannot reach itself, because later, the favor will be returned. Money loves counting. Money is a good servant but a bad master. For mutual altruism to be favored by natural selection, all individuals must have effective means of exchanging services, including recognizing each other, understanding their obligations, and being motivated for mutual altruism. For instance, Packer observed that when a female olive baboon, Papio anubis, enters estrus, a male forms a pair bond with her, stays close, awaiting the chance to mate, and protects her from other males. However, sometimes a rival may enlist the help of a third male to distract the bonded male. While the helper engages the pair-bonded male in a fight, the rival takes advantage of the female's favor. Packer demonstrated that this helper's altruism is often rewarded. Those males who assist most frequently also receive help most often. Thus, we see that living organisms, in fulfilling their needs, often seek the help of others of their kind, exchanging services, a sort of universal currency. Ultimately, this increases the fitness of both parties, giving them better access to vital resources. In human society, money acts as this universal currency. Through money, people can better meet their basic vital needs, food, sexual instinct, and realize their deeply rooted, so-called ideal needs. Money serves as a universal mediator not only in economics but also in social relations, a trend that George Simmel analyzed in his 1900 work The Philosophy of Money. Money expresses the value that a person invests in a product during its production. Thus, if a person produces something for someone else, they not only invest their value but also the value of the one who set the task. However, subjectively, the person may perceive such production as an extraction, as Proudhon said, a theft, of the value of their labor, as alienation, Marx. This, as a rule, leads not only to demotivation of the worker but also to an increasing loss of value invested in the product. Thus, neither the worker nor the client fully gets what they desire. A penny in time is worth more than a ruble. Time is money. Benjamin Franklin. It's a different matter when a person is working on their own project or as part of a team they consider their own, engaging in collective work. In this case, a phenomenon first described by Max Weber, the capitalist spirit, as the spirit of entrepreneurship begins to operate. This spirit finds or attracts money, investments, on its own. The spirit of entrepreneurship was also studied by renowned German economists and philosophers of the early 20th century, Werner Sombart, who contrasted it with usury, and Joseph Schumpeter, who linked it to cycles of socio-economic renewal. It is important to learn how to set goals properly. Goals map the path to success, acting as a guide. They help focus on the result, define priorities, and help people understand what is important at each stage. To achieve anything, one must put in the effort and take action, not just dream. Unfortunately, for many, this remains theoretical. People often abandon tasks quickly to avoid the inevitable difficulties along the way. After several such instances, where progress toward a goal was halted, one looks back and realizes that giving up was a mistake, and their present could have been much more successful. One should never expect to reach their goal quickly and easily, even with talent and ability. Every achievement requires effort. Calvin Coolidge, one of the U.S. vice presidents, once said, "Nothing in this world can take the place of persistence. Talent will not. Nothing is more common than unsuccessful men with talent. Genius will not. Unrewarded genius is almost a proverb. Education will not. The world is full of educated derelicts. Persistence and determination alone are omnipotent. Borrowed a penny long ago but nowhere to go." Humans are the only beings in the world capable of searching for and giving life meaning. Once a person identifies the area of their search, they set a goal that serves as a beacon lighting their difficult path. To mobilize all their forces, a person needs to place before themselves a noble goal capable of inspiring them, said the French writer, historian, and philologist Joseph-Ernest Renan. The Renaissance writer and philosopher Michel de Montaigne also wrote, "A soul that has no fixed purpose in advance ruins itself. As they say, he who is everywhere is nowhere." Francis Bacon, the English philosopher, remarked, "A lame man on the right road will beat a runner on the wrong one." What hinders a person from staying on the right path? Numerous trials and temptations unfold before their eyes. For instance, one of the most common temptations, both now and in ancient times, is money. Money can grant freedom but can also become a trap. The trap is so sweetly coated that few strong souls can avoid it. Ideals are forgotten, and the temporary joy of possession overshadows the light of the beacon. It's fortunate when someone develops interests that give them a new perspective on life, and it's good when they're ready to learn, grow, and gain experience. This is exactly what happened to the hero of a Kurdish folk tale, The Good Work. Kavar was a brave warrior. When the war on the mountain border ended victoriously, he rushed home, where his fiancée Nareen was waiting. She was dark-eyed, lively, and hard-working. Kavar loved her with all his heart and dreamed of how they would live happily together, raising many children. He who loses money loses much, he who loses a friend loses much more, but he who loses faith loses everything. Eleanor Roosevelt. Everything would have gone as planned if, on his way home, Kavar hadn't encountered several wealthy, well-dressed men. "Where are you headed, good warrior?" they asked. "I'm hurrying home, my fiancée is waiting." "Won't she wait a little longer? We have a good job for you. We'll pay a lot of money, and you'll return with dignity and build a house." "What kind of job?" "Come with us, and you'll see." Kavar couldn't resist. Who wouldn't want to please their fiancé? Especially since he had dreamed of building a house but was too poor. He followed them. The well-dressed men brought him to an unfamiliar village and showed him a magnificent house, more like a palace. "Do you like it?" they asked. Kavar was speechless with amazement. He had never seen such beauty. "So, you like it? Build another just like it for my son," the elder said, "and you'll earn a lot." Poor Kavar hung his head. What a job! How would he manage it? He wanted to refuse, but seeing the stern faces of his hosts, he realized he couldn't leave. Long story short, Kavar completed the construction. It was incredibly difficult for him. He hired workers, cut and sawed wood, carried stones. Everyone knows how hard it is to build a house. But during that time, he learned a lot and became quite the master. His hosts kept their promise and paid him well. But when he returned to his native village, he learned that his beloved Nareen had married someone else. Kavar was heartbroken. He didn't know how to go on. But he pulled himself together. He was, after all, a warrior and got to work. He had money, skills he had acquired in distant lands, and he decided to build a house for himself. As he worked, his sorrow left him. When his neighbors saw the beauty he had created, they were astonished. By that time, one of Kavar's friends had a grown-up daughter. Although not as beautiful as Nareen, she was a sweet and lovely girl named Sandrina. Kavar proposed to her, and she accepted. And they lived long and happily. Though Kavar often sighed in the evenings for his unfaithful fiancée Nareen, one's first love is never forgotten. This story is a reminder that happiness doesn't lie in money. But with money, it is possible. It's a fact of life that work is compensated with money. Money is a universal, symbolic method of economic exchange, and no utopia will be able to abolish this symbolic exchange, even in the distant future. The world as we perceive it is, after all, material. Something material will always remain as payment for skills, experience, competence, time spent, and labor produced. What could the great artists of the past, Botticelli, Rembrandt, Caravaggio, Van Gogh, Cézanne, and many others, have known about money for their work? Did they create their masterpieces, not only on canvas but also in the realm of the spirit, just to earn large sums? Van Gogh, for example, poured such energy into his canvases that they still haven't lost half their power. But these great masters would be astonished to learn the prices their works fetch at modern auctions. The world of money is always a world of paradoxes because it is inherently built on conventions and paradoxes. And the process of earning money must happen in parallel with the complex and multifaceted process of understanding the world, learning from the experiences of others, gaining sacred connections with the world as a whole, and accumulating the unique experience of the soul's maturation. Lose money, lose nothing, lose time, lose much, lose health, lose everything.